Hi everyone, it's JL Rothstein here, author of the Heaven Sent series. My new book, Atonement, is out now. You can find it on Amazon or on my website at jlrothstein.com. I have a very special guest, Anastasia Abboud. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so excited that we get to talk books, we get to talk writing, and I love the background. You are sitting outside. I wish I was sitting outside, but it's too cold here. It is nice and warm where you are. So tell the audience a little bit about your newest book, Tremors.
Tremors took almost 5 years to write. It's a paranormal romance, a time travel romance. And I was always reading romances where the lady travels back to the past. And I decided I wanted to see one where he travels to the future. And I didn't want it to be like a chief he's a farmer.
Yep.
My hero is a farmer. And he's very torn up. He doesn't know how he got here. He doesn't speak any modern language. And it's just his journey. And
I thought it was fantastic. I saw the little writing of it and I thought it was beautiful. Oh, I love that. I love that you have the picture, that you have the cover, and it can be found on Amazon. You can go to your website and find it if people want to read a little bit more about it. But just the little bit that I saw on Amazon, I thought was beautifully written. So this is right away when you're reading the little blurb, and I think Amazon described it as a travel romance, which is just always in and of itself is very intriguing, but really, supernatural, but a heavy romance theme there. And I love that. I think the audience loved that too. So I hope they go and check it out. So we will jump into your questions. And I love these questions. I haven't been able to ask some of these questions, so I'm very excited to talk about them. So the first one, what sparks your creativity?
What sparks my creativity? Living life sparks my creativity. Everything that takes me away from writing sparks my creativity. It's like, you can't. My favorite thing in the world is to be with loved ones. My husband, my kids, my grandkids, our wild, wonderful, extended family, my friends. And when I'm with them, everything is fine. If I see them healthy and happy, all is well with the world. I'm where I'm supposed to be. Yep. And if all is well with the world, then how can you not feel good and feel creative and feel your best? Another way is nature. I love to be at the sea.
No worries.
I love to be in my garden. And when I find peace there. And that also is a way to make me feel better. I have to feel good.
Yeah.
I can't be fretting. I can't be stressed to want to write and be creative. And like last week, it can be something mundane. Last week I did that grocery shopping day where Costco came back. I hate shopping. So Costco, the grocery store, where you can buy normal sized human proportions, and put everything away. And I was complaining, about I could have been doing anything. I could have been outside with the family. I could have been writing. I always say I could be writing, but And then I realized that little voice told me you need to be grateful. And then I realized that's something in my book I could apply directly. The people in the 14th century, they didn't know their food source was uncertain. And so that was like a direct creative spark from just normal daily life.
Yep. I love the whole creative mindset. I love that whole mindset. I try to tap into that as much as possible. I think it's really, really helped me, especially as I've gotten older and just resetting and trying to be present, but then trying to be grateful for whatever it is. Even something as mundane as shopping can sort of take what seems like a bad day or a bad moment and really help you to turn it around. So I love the whole grateful mindset from beginning to end. I think that's super helpful. And then, that kind of clears you out, right? Then you can allow the creativity to set in, because I think a lot of times when we're stressed, when we're worried, when we're anxious, when we're thinking about a million other things, there's no way the creativity can actually make its way in or can spark in any way. Yeah, so that's fascinating. So I love that. I also loved your second question, which was if you could have lunch with any author, past or present, who would it be and why?
Well, it'd be Gibran, Khalil Gibran. He's one of my
favorite. You said that
authors.
much nicer than I could have ever said that. I'm glad you didn't give me that answer to say. It sounds beautiful.
Well, Yeah, it depends on what language we're speaking. I butcher things, so I don't think you would have. The food. I would have had lunch because we can eat Lebanese food. It's the best food in the world.
Hmm.
That sounds shallow, but it is. It's fresh lemon, fresh ingredients, too many things. But also, he wrote such beautiful poetry and prose. He could talk of the immigrant experience. He could
Mm.
talk of the church. He could talk of Lebanon and the U.S. He was a little bit of a revolutionary. He really cared about women's rights in the 1920s when,
When no one did.
no one did.
Yeah.
And he fell out with the church, on so many occasions. But he loved God, and he was just a very, very interesting, passionate person.
Yeah. And I mean, you can love God and still have conflicts with the church. I mean, I say that to
Yeah,
people all the time that, the church is an organization. Essentially, if you cut it down, it's a business, but that has nothing to do with your belief or your faith or your love of God. So disagreeing with the church and loving God are two very different things. So I think
absolutely.
politically there are a lot of people that have a problem with the church. And we were chit-chatting a little bit before coming on here, saying that we were talking about Catholicism because we're both Catholic. And I had a really hard time being from Boston. I had a really hard time with what happened with the sex abuse scandals here, which were the first to break here and in I think Philadelphia. But it was a really big deal here, and it just rocked the whole entire community within Boston, and had a really hard time with how the church handled that. And he's even handled it since then, but it doesn't break my faith in God. I mean, the church is, men
Yeah,
and women. It's humans. It's bound
exactly.
to have problems. I think as long as you can always separate those, you kind of are able to stay straight. So that totally makes sense, and that sounds like that would be an amazing lunch. So first you'd have to get him or her to cook it, right? They'd have to cook the lunch first, and then you could talk writing, and then you
We'll
could
go
talk
to a
about books.
restaurant, Lebanese restaurant, if you don't mind. Please, no cooking today.
Yeah, no cooking and no making anybody do any work for that. So you could just chat about writing and life and experience of that person. So
Yeah.
tell the audience a little bit about what you're reading now.
Ooh, what I'm reading. Okay, so I mostly read on Kindle, and I noticed on one of your interviews, I think we're similar in that we have a lot of books going on, at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yes.
So I'm listening because it's my birthday month and it's nature month for me.
Yes.
So
Happy
I'm
birthday
listening,
month.
thank you, to a beautiful book about John Muir. I can show you. Do you see it?
Yeah, I can see the
It's
little thumbnail. Yep.
and then okay, I want to show you the pictures because I'm reading this. It's Marple Deer by Mad Hildebrandt. It's a
Hmm.
cozy, it's hilarious. I don't want to tell anything to spoil it. Pioneering in the San Juan. That's one of those free books you get on Kindle
Yep.
because it's about nature in the mountains. I thought I should do that.
Right up your
And
alley.
this, it terrifies me. Interview with the Vampire. I'm in a book club. I like to read about happy people doing happy things in a happy village. I really do. But I decided to challenge myself and try to get through it. It's a vampire. It's gory. Oh my goodness.
Where are you in the book?
I'm still in the first third.
Okay, so I will say, so obviously, I mean, Anne Rice has been writing about vampires for a long time, and a lot of people think of her as the quintessential vampire writer. I've read a couple of hers,
Yeah.
not a lot of her work, but I find that she almost has this lyrical, almost poetic way of writing about these characters. I feel like if someone didn't tell you they were vampires and you took away the gore, she could have been writing about anyone. I mean, it's just her writing in and of itself is beautiful, which is
It
really
is,
strange. It's kind of a juxtaposition of the
truly.
story itself. It's like if you had just taken away the gore and you
Yeah.
didn't know these were vampires, and she was just writing about, the 1400s or 1600s or whatever, era she's writing about that point. She's just really a beautiful writer, and it just happens to be that the topic is
It,
kind of horror or gore. I don't
it
know.
is.
Yeah.
It is horror because I mean, vampire, I don't know, like a cartoon or something, maybe Twilight way back when. Um,
Yeah.
but the description of, the drinking of the blood and the things that vampires have to do to stay alive,
Yeah.
it's just, it's stressful.
Well,
So,
I think a lot of people you know, it's funny. Vampires have been something that is just quintessential. It's been around forever, right? And it's,
Yes.
there are certain aspects of them that people always write about, and you know, I have written some pieces myself about vampires that are nothing like those vampires, because I always want to see vampires differently. I always want to see, well, what else could be done about them that's not in the familiar like tropes and lore. But I think if you can get past the gore, it's actually a very, Interview with the Vampire is actually a very interesting story of what is going on in that person's world at that time, and it's just so beautifully written. But you're right, you do have to get past that goriness, and you do have to get past the horror of the fact that they're, you know, killing people.
Yeah.
So yeah, once you get past that, it's great. But no, it's you know, I will say, it's just, I think a lot of people love her for the fact that
Yeah.
her writing is just so beautiful, and that people there, she has like pages of just describing things. Like, she's a
Yeah.
really
True.
exceptional description writer, you know,
Which makes it kind of worse, in
yeah.
a way. Better and
Yes, like,
worse.
describe my garden. Don't describe what you're doing to this human being, this poor human being that you've got. But I mean, like 3 or 4 pages of just like description of
Mystery.
the setting and what's happening and what it looks like and everything. And it is pretty amazing. But yes, you have to get past the subject matter. So you're just like me. You have a billion things on your Kindle. Do
Yeah.
you still buy actual books, physical books?
I buy only, yes, I do. I like little prayer books. I like art books. I like
Yep.
cookbooks. I like gardening books. All of these, anything with a map is
Yep.
much better hardback, right? Or,
Yeah. Yeah.
but if it's a beautiful story, I don't care how I read it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, look, and I'm reading this. It's a textbook about Colorado. It's a hardback. It has maps and drawings and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, my reading is, I've been busy.
Yeah, I have a huge list. I'm so behind in all of it. But I was telling someone, I love a physical book. And if I'm going on vacation or it's a day off, like, I love this idea. The house is quiet and I get the book and I can get a glass of wine. And that's like my favorite space, right? To be in, is to have that quiet time to sit down and read an actual physical book. But that so rarely happens that I end up buying way more on my Kindle, and I end up being able to read more because I can squeeze it
Yeah,
in. I can squeeze it in at night before bed. I can squeeze it in a little bit in the morning. I can take it with me if I'm going to be, you know, stuck somewhere in a waiting room or whatever. Then I can get an hour of reading in or something. So it ends up being more convenient. The convenience kind of trumps
yeah,
everything else because you're able to do it for time. But I do kind of miss the books, and definitely when I'm on vacation or I'm going to the beach, it's like I'm taking a book, not my
no
Kindle.
way. No.
Yeah.
Well, see, I am very much a Kindle fan. I'm not nostalgic at all. You can carry your whole library in your purse
It's
to go
true.
anywhere.
It's
I
true.
love that. And if I don't have it with me, if I'm in line at the grocery store, I pop up, my Kindle
Oh, your
app.
phone. Yeah, the
Yeah,
app.
and it's right there. I
Yeah,
just continue
yeah,
reading, and
yeah,
then they're disturbing me when it's my turn. But
yeah.
I love my Kindle
Yeah, I mean, I take both.
and my
I went
ebook
on vacation. I went on vacation. We went on vacation. I know it feels so long
before
ago now
COVID.
because of COVID,
Yeah,
but we went down to the Cape a year ago, and I took both the Kindle and the book. But the best was just going out onto a beach chair and having that physical book. But then when I go back to the room or whatever for a few minutes before bed, I'd rather be holding the Kindle than
much lighter.
holding an actual book. Much lighter, much easier to
I
read.
get the book messy. I get sand on it. I get water on
But that's part of it. That's just part of it. It's like, look, I went on vacation. I can prove it. There's all this sand that comes out of this book.
I even have some books. I have it on Audible, on Kindle, and in hardback. I mean,
Yeah,
the physical book, like you say, it has to be a very special book. But I
yeah,
I do have some in all three options. With all three
yeah.
options.
I haven't gotten into the whole listening. I'm trying. I've tried a couple of different audiobooks, and I guess I just haven't found one that I've
You have
really
to get a
liked the
good
voice
one.
of, because it's a big deal. If the voice is
Huge.
off from like what you're expecting or what you think that main character should sound like or whatnot, it just really throws me. So I've listened to a couple that I just was like, I couldn't really get into them, couldn't really get over them. But it's a huge market and growing. It's
It
like
is.
Yeah, that's probably the fastest growing market of Amazon is books going audio.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have to consider, but not yet. Down the line.
Down the line. We don't have to do that now. That's not for us to tackle today for sure. All right.
Mhm.
Well, in closing, tell the audience what's next for you.
I'm writing the sequel to Tremors. It's 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 books with beautiful Highlanders and strong modern women, but with a little bit different twist on the time travel.
Nice. I love that. I love the different twists on things instead of just
Mhm.
getting your normal stuff. So I look forward to that. I can't wait. And I hope everybody goes out and checks you out. You're obviously on Twitter. That's where we met. And you've got a website and your books are on Amazon. So I hope everybody goes out, checks out Trummers, checks out your site and your blog, and says happy birthday for your birthday month. And hope everybody out there celebrating. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I'm so appreciative of you coming on the show.
Are you going to give me your next book for my birthday?
I wish it was not written yet.
Oh
I am hoping it'll be in the editor's hands mid-November. That is the goal, and that it would be complete through the editing process at the beginning of next year. And maybe if I work really hard at it, I could get it out in March, but we'll
I
we'll
look forward
see.
to it.
Yeah, we'll see. But thank you everybody for tuning in, and thank you so much for joining me,
Thank
and I hope
you.
everybody checks everything out. So have a
I
good one.
enjoyed
Have a
it.
good night,
You
everybody.
too.